Okay, so today I want to look at some further examples. There's no new maths that we're learning as such here, but the questions are harder and they may be a little bit difficult to understand how to approach them using what we've learned so far. So we're kind of going to be learning the skill of problem solving and breaking down these problems. So this one is actually in your book. It's on page 172 and it's question 5. You can decide. I do recommend taking these into your notes copy, even though it's nothing really new as such. But it's up to yourselves if you want to take notes on this or not. I do recommend doing it. Okay, so this is the question. A motorist completed a journey of 100 kilometers in 3.5 hours. When you see questions like this, and you see how long it is, one of the first things to do is maybe highlight the numbers. So we have a distance of 100 kilometers. We know that's going to be used somewhere. And a time of 3.5 hours. You can even write down what they are next to them. We've got distance and we've got time. She went part of the way at a steady 32 kilometers per hour speed. So there's one speed, I'm going to call it speed A, and the rest of the journey at 24 kilometers per hour. So this is speed B. So before we do anything else, we know that our problem is going to be broken down into two parts, into two different speeds. Okay, so I'm going to keep things in my mind. So speed A and speed B. The other thing is that I know that this is a distance, speed, time question because that's what everything here is referring to. Distance, time, and speed. So I know that I'm going to be using this Dad's silly triangle. So hopefully you've done this in science and maybe in maths in first year, and it tells us that, so you cover with your finger whichever one you're trying to find. If I'm trying to find distance, it's speed multiplied by time. If I'm trying to find time, it's distance divided by speed. And if I'm trying to find speed, it's distance divided by time. So this little triangle helps us figure out anything we're trying to do. So what do we know? Well, they tell us to let x be the number of kilometers that are travelled at 32 kilometers per hour, which is my speed A. So my speed A is 32 kilometers per hour. My speed B is 24 kilometers per hour. And I know that I travel a distance of x kilometers at speed A. And the question is, how many kilometers do I travel at speed B? Well, so this is my speed, and now I'm talking about distance. Well, I know that my total distance is going to add up. So the total distance is 100 kilometers. Where do I know that from? It's in the question. So if I traveled 10 kilometers at speed A, I'd have to travel 90 at speed B. If I traveled 50 at speed A, then 50 at speed B. 60 at speed A, 40 at speed B, etc., etc. So these two have to add together to give me 100. And how I work that out is that I take this one away from 100. So if this was 10, 100 minus 10 gives me 90. If this is 40, 100 minus 40 gives me 60, etc. So my second distance must be 100 minus my first distance. Now, am I told anything else? I'm not told the time. I just know that my total time, I don't know my time for speed A. I don't know my time for speed B, but I know that the total time is 3.5 hours. So there I've organized myself to answer the questions that I'm going to be asked. So part A says, write in terms of x the number of kilometers travelled at 24 kilometers per hour. And in fact, we've already done it here when we were organizing ourselves. So part A, really easy to do. the distance, I'm going to call it distance B. Sorry, distance B is going to be 100 minus x kilometers. Let's see what question B was. So question B asked me to write, in terms of x, the time spent travelling at 32 kilometers per hour. Now this phrase here, in terms of x, this means x will be in my answer. I won't be getting an actual number. X will be in the answer. You won't get an actual number. So if I knew the value of x, if I knew the distance that was travelled at speed a, I would be able to calculate the time. How? Well, time from my triangle, time is distance over speed. So time a will be distance a divided by speed a. So in terms of answering part B, I know that my time travelling at 32 kilometers will be the distance, which is x, divided by the speed, which is 32, travelling at 32 kilometers per hour. So that's the time taken, and it's in hours. So have a think about that if you don't see that straight away. If I knew, for example, that my distance was 10 kilometers at 32 kilometers per hour, it would be 10 divided by 32 to get how long I was doing it for. Part C. Write in terms of x the time spent travelling at 24 kilometers per hour. So again, I'm going to use the same fact here. The time for section B of the journey is the distance for section B divided by the speed for section B. So time B is going to be distance B, well, we already calculated distance B, 100 minus x divided by speed B, which is 24. And those are hours as well. Okay, so hopefully you're following along with this. It is quite complicated. Part D then is when it starts to get a bit tricky. So part D says, write an equation in x for the total time. Well, we've helped ourselves by being organised here. The total time is 3.5 hours. So for part D, what I know is that time A plus time B will give me the total time. You don't need to write down that fact. This is me helping you if you're taking notes on this. Time A is x over 32 plus time B is 100 minus x divided by 24, and that's equal to my total time, which is 3.5. You can leave that as a decimal, so you've got a mixture of fractions and decimals here, but we know what to do with them. Part E then asks us to solve this equation. Well, if we're going to solve it, we've got to get rid of the fractions. So the first thing we're going to do is write down our common denominator. We're looking for something that divides into both 32 and 64, both 32 and 24, both divide into. So let's have a look. 48, let's see, 32 by 3, 96. Divided by 24, yeah, 96. Now, if you pick a bigger common denominator than that, that's fine. You'll just have bigger numbers as you're working it out. But that common denominator came from the HCF, sorry, not the HCF, the LCM of 32 and 24. Okay, so that's where I got that from, but if you pick a different number, it's quite okay. So remember, what I have to do is I have to multiply each part of my equation, each term, everything separated by pluses, minuses, and equals, by 96. And then the 32 divides into 96. 96 divided by 32 gives me 3. And 24 divided into 96 gives me 4. So the equation that I write down is 3 by x plus 4 by 100 minus x equal to, and we'll just do this in our calculator, 96 by 3.5 is 336. Don't be scared of big numbers. they'll all simplify down in the end. 3x plus 400 minus 4x equals 336. We know how to solve this. Letters left, numbers right. 336 minus 400. So we'll get a minus on both sides, and that's fine. Minus x is equal to 336 minus 400, which is minus 64. So that means that x is equal to 64. And what type of thing was x? It was the distance travelled at speed a. So that is 64 kilometres. 64 kilometres. So the first part of the journey was 64 kilometres, and part F asked us to figure out how long she spent travelling at each speed. So they asked us to figure out time A and time B. So now we have to use this value, and time A was x over 32, which is 64 over 32, which is 2 hours. And then you can figure out time B any way you like, but we know that they add up to 3.5 hours. So the easiest way is to just do it like this. And you could have substituted it into 100 minus x divided by 24, which would be 36 divided by 24, which is 1.5. So those are the two answers there. Okay, fairly complicated question there. Please take your time with it. Take it down into your notes. I am going to do one more of the questions from the book before we move on to the next section here. And I'm going slowly enough through it because this is really complicated algebra. So this is the top level of the complication that our algebra can get to, okay? So if you're struggling with it, just know that it's okay to be challenged by questions like this because it is definitely difficult. Do leave me questions if there's a step that you don't understand, and I have some homework for you to practice with tonight. Okay, thank you.